the word punch, they're gonna think I'm talking about you, but
Oh
I don't know
yeah.
if that made I don't know if that made it or not. If you did hear the word punch, it's not nothing to do with punching
Oh, we're
Brian.
live. Whoa, she
Yeah.
wasn't supposed to say that.
Welcome everybody. This is The Real and Rod. I'm Lynn Serrano and you are?
I'm her co-host, Brian.
Yeah. And guess what? We'll be right back after this. I feel like we're at Tonight Show.
Except we do it in we do it earlier.
For the early birds. I don't know.
If we're not wearing suits, and our audience is virtual instead of in person.
Yeah. How life has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so how are you, Brian?
Running. Got a lot
Yeah.
going on right now.
Yep. As always, right?
How about
As
you?
always.
Going on
So
with
I love it. Well, we thought about this topic last week, and then seconds before I show, I'm like, I forgot where we're going about with this. So I'm going to hand the baton to you.
Well, there's some, we're always uncovering topics and things that are of interest, and a lot of people that watch our show and are loyalists know that it's like we don't pull any punches. We give it to you straight and real. And I think that too much of life is caught up within the minutia of noise, and people are too sensitive. And I get that that's a generalization.
Did I say it before?
It's a generation thing, right? There we go.
Yep.
I finally spit it out. Yeah.
I'm rubbing off on him, people.
I gotta, yeah, she's giving me her Long Islandisms, her Lynnisms. No, but I think that too many people, in my personal opinion, now this is just me, and I'm a Generation Xer. I think people are soft these days. I think that people are too sensitive. I think that people are too easily offended. I think that people have nothing to complain about, right? Like by and large, we're all dealing with crises. We're all dealing with upset. We're all dealing with things out of our control. But I think that too many people are getting soft these days. And I don't know how to relate to it, because it's almost like if you say anything, you'll offend anybody, whether you're trying or not. You know what I mean? Like, even if you're smiling to some people, like, oh my God, why is that person smiling? It's like, because I'm being myself.
And you know what, Brian? I'm the beginning of Gen X of 1965. And I got to tell you, it's kind of weird, because the funny thing is that growing up, we were sensitive. We were all this shit, but you were to be seen, not heard.
Right.
And you were to take the shit that came to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's funny, because you get older, they say you revert back to being a little kid. And I'm like, shit, all these kids are acting like I did when I was young, and we didn't discuss it or talk about it. We just dealt with it. And, no right or wrong here, but when you think about it, I don't think our parents did wrong by beating our ass when we needed it. Nope. I got ass beatings I didn't deserve. Let's keep that straight. But there's times that you needed it because you weren't doing the right things, or, you need to understand things.
And what a lot of people realize is that they want to conclude before the rationale of why they did it. They did it to make you a better person. They did it so you respect people. Yes. They did it so you thrive in life. You don't crumble because you're followers and not doers. Yeah. Givers instead of takers, right? Mm-hmm. As Adam Grant wrote in his book, Givers and Takers, it's like there's always going to be polar opposites. There's always going to be achievers, and there's three different types of people in this world. Those that do it, those that say that they're going to do it, and those that are doers, those that are watchers, and those that don't know what's happening.
Right.
And then there's three different types of responses: something, nothing, or something, nothing, or complain.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people complaining about the world not being the way that they want it to be, or whatever. It's like, that's the way it's always been.
Right. It's what you make it.
Correct. And so there are two things from therapy and life experience and near death and heartbreak that really speak to me. And one of them is vulnerability, and the other is transparency. Mm-hmm. And along with transparency is self-expression. And it's like, I'm fully in my own skin, comfortable. It's like, hey, I'm going to be who I'm going to be. If you don't like me, that's okay.
Yep.
But I'm not going to fake who I am, because I did that. I did that without even knowing it for years.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were how would I say, we had everybody telling us how we were supposed to be molded.
We were
We were
programmed. We were
yeah, we
programmed.
were programmed.
Yep.
And so and then we spend good money getting, educate ourselves or going to the shrink and realizing when they sit there and go, and yeah, that was okay. You didn't do nothing wrong. I'm like, what? Huh? I mean, we're so conditioned not to even think that how we thought was even human or right or wrong and stuff. And so I think instead of being having gratitude that look, I'm okay and it's okay to be me,
Yep.
if we all did that more. And I think that's what I love about the media and what I love about what people do is, it inspires me that okay, I was an athlete and I don't look like an athlete now, but when I see a big girl can stand up and strut her shit, I'm like, that is so freaking cool. But I'm
Mhm.
also grateful because she did that, I can also feel like I'm not that different. Like I'm accepted. I can be who I want to be without being, you know, it's more so that I'm more sensitive about what people would think about me because of it wasn't the standard, it
Right.
wasn't the standard model. And I do mean model,
Mhm.
And so, but yeah, so I totally agree that when you realize, but you don't have to be sensitive. When you realize that we can all be who we are and accept it. And like I said, I love seeing people being wild and out there. And I'm like, wow, if only I had the balls to do that when I was younger. Instead, I was an introvert. I stayed quiet and I said, I don't want to be judged like every asshole judging them. So I was still judging.
Mhm. Well, what a lot of people don't realize is that, and I was on a mastermind call this morning for a group I'm a part of. And let's see here, we're 6 or 9 months into a year-long course, right? And we got 3 months left. And it's like we were talking about business, sales, and all of that. And it's like so much of everything in life is what a majority of people do, where they zig, I zag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, so I want to in this, I swear this is going to be a two-part series here
Oh
because
yeah.
I want to
Yep.
say that I think we should talk more about our own personal experience about being vulnerable and
Yep.
self-expression or bust. And I think on Gen X, we felt like we were going to bust
Right.
because we really couldn't share who or what we wanted to be. We were just very awkward because we were trying to be people pleasers and knowing where we fit in all of, everybody else.
I think it was also taboo back then, right? You just follow
Yeah.
the herd.
Yeah.
You sit down, you don't say a word. Even if you're called on, you really don't say anything, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a double standard. And this day and age, it's like you can't like like a law of reciprocity. You can't give without receiving, right?
Right.
Like the boomerang effect, right?
Mhm.
What you give out is what you're going to receive eventually, right? Now,
Right.
you don't expect to receive anything because that's what a giving heart does. But at the same time, it's in order for it to be well-rounded, you can't get people to feel something without number one feeling it first, number two without going there.
Right.
You
So let
know,
me ask you this. So did you find it difficult to actually be vulnerable? I mean, or was that
I'm going to need a little bit more context, like of a situation or something. Like
well,
let's say,
like
go
good
ahead.
example, being on the show and just being vulnerable about, having depression or, being awkward about things. I mean, like did you find it very hard to share? Oh, I think we got a Jerry thing here.
Refuse to follow. Yeah,
The
yeah.
herd.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yes, yes.
Thanks, Jerry. Thank you for being here.
Yep. Hi, Jerry. Love you. Safe travels to you today. So yeah, it's one of those things where did you find I'm gonna be and I think we're in agreements this why we named the show Real and Raw.
Right.
We were just gonna shoot from the hip and
Hmm.
be as vulnerable as we can,
Hmm.
where a lot of other people would run from that. Like,
Right.
I'd
They
rather
gotta
keep
have
this shit to my
scripts and they've
grave.
gotta rehearse things and they've gotta like, "Oh my god, what about all these contingencies and what happens if the internet connection fades?" And analysis paralysis.
Right, right, and I think the Gen X is really they're coming to their own now. They
Mhm.
went through enough shit and it's like, toughen up. It made us better. I think when you can sit back and the dust, settled, we realize, well, for me raising kids, you realize the reason why you handled the things you did and then, your kids realize because, it was generational some of the things, how I treated my kids or whatever, or I was there or I wasn't there. It's one of those things they're like, well, I'm not going to do what you did. And then they realize why you did what you did. And, and it takes a while to understand. And again, getting older, it takes you to understand why your parents treated you the way they did, or, and the lessons learned. So it's one of those things where we don't break and share who we are. There's a generation lost of not having those stories, legacies, or understanding.
I mean, to answer your question, I think at first, just like anything new, you're going to have like resignment or whatever. But I think eventually, if you really want to do it, you're going to force yourself to it and just figure it out as you go. Right. Now, there are 3 pivotal moments in my life that made me who I am today. Right. There are many more, but I mean, 3 big events. Number 1, I am myself almost dying in a car accident. 9 months later, my dad passing away unexpectedly. And the third one is a heartbreaking relationship from the woman I thought I was going to marry. Right. Those things really did me in terms of, okay, number 1, how much I value life. Number 2, how much I'm going to be myself. Number 3, I'm going to give in such a way where I want to hear people's stories. I contribute to people in ways I don't even know how I can do that. But I'm going to love people unconditionally. I'm going to be myself. If you don't like it, that's okay.
Right.
But I'm just going to show up how I'm going to show up, as weird, quirky, nerdy as it might be. And that's what it is for me. That's who I am as a person. And if you don't like it, I'm perfectly
able to. That's why I love him.
And also, I think too, I mean, that's not what we're talking about today, transparency. I don't pull any punches anymore. I'll be straight up with you. I can joke and be humorous and all of that, but it's like, hey, you don't have that as a background or as an emphasis of like, hey, let's just be straight with each other in real talk. If somebody's agenda is playing games or whatever, it's like, I'm going to diffuse it right away, because there's no, if I'm going to be honest up front with you, I would expect the same in return, regardless if it's personal, professional, anything like that. And I think that that's a lost art today. People want to hide, people want to do all these things. And it's like, hey, just be honest and upfront, because if it doesn't start well, it's not going to end well.
Hey, beautiful Mary. And I love that you said that, because people do not realize that taking their time not to be forthcoming and honest is wasting, number 1, your time and their time.
Right.
And I mean, now that I'm going to be 57 here soon, it's like, shit, time is wasted, So don't wait till you get older to waste your time. I mean, spending time in relationships I shouldn't have, and marriages that I shouldn't have for way too long. Wasted my time. I think
it, and this might be a little bit harsh, but I also think too, is that if someone cannot communicate with you and they ghost you and they ignore you, for whatever it is, I think number 1, it's immature. And number 2, it's cowardly. That's just how I look at it. That's my opinion, because it's like, hey, it's kind of like the maybe, right? Instead of saying yes or no, and you say maybe, it's like, okay, just choose, right?
Yeah.
Just make a choice and be certain about that choice. Yeah. Instead of being in the middle, where it's kind of like somebody uncertain about what they're going to do. Like you reach out to a friend and they're like, and it's like, eventually when it comes time to commit, either we're going to get together or not, and they're still uncertain. Well, that's probably not the only place in their life where that shows up.
Yeah, but and it's not an excuse / I'll use an example that Debbie, said, hey, why don't you go, let's meet up or whatever. And I think I took 2 months, maybe 3 months to give her an answer. And because I had a lot of different factors going in, including I felt funny seeing her before I see my dad, but it's just working out the way it is. But,
sure.
So maybe just means sometimes the pause in between your decision. So I think sometimes you regret when you say yes or no when you're not certain. So I've realized for me, instead of being quick to say, yes, I want to do that, and then realize realistically I can't, I think that pause of maybe is a good idea to look at your calendar. So it's like you and I, let's do a pop-up tomorrow. Yes. But then we look at our calendar. That's not, for integrity purposes, don't say yes or no and realize they're not excuses, but it's not working with your calendar either.
Right.
So I mean,
I
let's,
I
you know
would
what I mean?
extend it one more step, given this context, is that you say maybe, or you say, okay, let's reconvene, like with a call to action in the future, but
Right.
here's what I need to work through. If you're
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
tell somebody,
Right.
instead of it
Communication.
being
Yeah.
like, well, maybe, or I don't know,
Yeah.
and it's just like leaving somebody like blanketed as far as what might get in the way.
Yeah.
I think it can go to that step where it's like, okay, here's what we need to work through, or I
Or
need to
say,
work through.
right. Or say, hey, you know what? Can I give you an answer by noon tomorrow? You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like something
Right.
like that. Again, that's a communication skill we don't use. It,
Right.
but this is the problem. Most people say, oh, shit, I told Brian yes. What excuses can I come up with? And it's not even the truth. Instead of
Right.
saying, you know what? I spoke too soon. I spoke too soon and I'm sorry. And that's where vulnerability needs to come in to say, you
Mhm.
know, that really sounds good to me, but I have to think about this and
Mhm.
but don't ghost them and
Right.
don't be, flipping for, months and months like I did. I mean, I told her I was interested. I just wasn't, I couldn't just say yes till I checked some things out. But
Right.
again, it's just, I'm catching myself personally to make sure that if I'm going to say yes or no, that I can
Mhm.
keep that word. I don't want to
Right.
just say yes or no and break my integrity, because then I have that internal battle of feeling so committed.
Well, and in a lot, this day and age, people don't want to be accountable for anything.
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, but those that are successful, those that are disrupting, and those that want to be the standard in whatever they're doing, or even in their own lives, they're going to
Well,
disrupt it because they want to be that standard, right?
well, there are successful people that always leave the door open to say, I'm not sure I can do that till,
Right.
they see what other offers are on the table too.
Right.
So, but
Exactly.
again, figure it out for yourself, but being candor with others is really
Well, and,
important.
and be in communication about what's in the way right now, but
Yeah.
have a time or have a location or have some kind of communication that you're not just blowing off to be like, oh, I'm going to
Yeah.
look at that in 3 months, and then it's just a random
Well, to me,
time.
have you noticed, maybe even when I was a little kid, but to me, maybe always seemed like I could still be hopeful that it can happen. You know what I
Correct.
mean?
Right.
And yet it sucks when you tell somebody maybe and you get them their hopes, possibilities, when your intention was never to even freaking go there. So don't
Right.
use the word maybe at all.
Yeah. Maybe.
It-
uh,
I'm just saying.
I
That's
mean,
just
no,
not.
no. Granted, I'm a creative person, but I'm also kind of black and white when it comes to certain things, because it's like, okay, either I'm going to invest my being in this to whatever degree, my thoughts, my time, whatever, my resources, my knowledge, my love, my care, whatever it might be, or I'm not.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and I know you know this, but we're kind of cut from the same cloth. Is that whenever we agree to something and commit to something, we go all in.
Yeah,
There
for
is no
sure.
50%. There's no
No,
67%. It's
I'm showing up.
100%.
I'm showing up. Whether
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
showing up and I'm gonna deal with whatever as we go.
And I think too is that I love this discussion because there is no ceiling to what this can be for us.
Hmm.
Now, we also have to be honest and upfront with ourselves about what vulnerability is, what self tongue twister day on the show. But then also though, what is transparency to us?
Right.
Because vulnerability to me is you're going to be out of all of this, you're going to be judged regardless. You're never
Yeah.
going to please everybody in life. It's
Yep.
just not going to happen. But how do you
Absolutely.
want to show up?
Yeah.
How do you
And
want to show up that makes you fulfilled, that
so
makes you pleased, that makes you at peace?
so being vulnerable here, I mean, I can tell you my truth, and I know there's times to come to the show or the day before, I'm like, shit, what's our topic, or what are we gonna do, or oh my gosh, Brian picked a topic and I'm not sure how I feel about it. But do I stop that from showing up? Heck no. I love the fact that I'm like, okay, this is gonna be fun, and what's Lynn gonna do next? Kind of thing. But have you ever had those times as far as doing a show with me? And you can be honest. I won't. I won't.
Well, I mean,
I won't pry.
it's more on me getting in my head like, how long is this going to take? I got to go right after this. I got 27 other things on my mind, but it's like, okay, I'm getting better at it from a standpoint of like, this is my commitment. I'm going to go all in. But then also though, what am I learning about myself? And not to be selfish, because we want to make sure all of our viewers get value out of this, but they can also apply it to their lives. But also though, am I on the right track?
Yeah.
for my own development, for my own discovery. And so, yeah, there are times, but it's when that noise shows up, I just kind of try to set it aside and to be like, here's what I need to do for the next 20 minutes, or half hour.
Yeah, which we're at 20 minutes. So I think I think part two is in the order next week.
In the order?
In the order, whatever. Don't rub it back to me, but
I gotta do my warm-up exercises for next week.
Oh, Mary Kiss it. We always get value from the two of you. Mary Kay, you're so beautiful. I love you. She's so beautiful. We need to have her on our show sometime.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, we're gonna start popping people up here.
Let's do it.
Maybe on our part 2s or something. I'll have to do that. Pick somebody.
Yeah, this topic is just so fascinating to me because there's always the greatest project and I know that there's famous quotes out there about this, but the greatest project we're ever going to work on is ourselves. And only we know if we're if we're taking shortcuts or if we're actually doing the work, we're doing the effort, and we're being as vulnerable, transparent, and self-expressed as we can.
Maybe I'll talk to Mary Kay, and maybe Mary Kay can find time next Thursday to be with us. I'm inviting
She's in Canada, right?
I forget where she's at, but I'm vulnerably asking her. And Brian, guess what? We'll find out if she says yes, no, or maybe.
Nice play. Nice segue.
Nice way putting her on the spot.
We'll see if she says maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But no, I mean, it seemed like right there in her comments that we have it in. Yeah, she's in Canada. But she agreed, so we've got it. Yes. She gave us her confirmation. She'd be interested in the pop-up, which is cool.
Well, then, Mary Kay, I will put you on the special guest. I will make sure to write that in, and we're excited, and we are going to continue this conversation about vulnerability, self-expression, or bust. Are you just going to bust and be miserable and not live your authentic life? So this is to be stay tuned. Anything else more before we leave, Brian?
One more thing too is that I think if somebody takes this on very seriously and they make it a part of their daily journey, I think that your life will get more simple. I think your purpose will emerge, and I think you'll know your reason for being in this world will show up, because I realized from coaching that my life is not about me. It's about other people.
Yeah. And just remember this, if you go, oh yeah, but I can't do that about, sharing myself. Think of all the people that have impacted you, that have had the balls before you to do the things you say, oh, I can't do. Well, and truly you can.
The one distinction there is it automatically what triggers when somebody says what they can't do or don't do. It's kind of like storytelling, right? When people are around for the holidays or whatever, they're telling stories without even thinking. The reptilian brain, it doesn't have the acknowledgement that they're telling stories, right? Mm-hmm. We all have it, but given our understanding of how we're wired and what that means, we don't think that we can do that, but we do it. But the reptilian brain is not intelligent enough to know that we're actually doing it. So we tell ourselves all the things that we don't do or we're not good enough at it. But then we also disregard what other people say that we're good at, Yeah.
So sometimes it really comes down to stop and listen,
right?
Including listen to what you say yourself.
And I would say, not only listen to yourself, but listen to what your heart's telling you as well.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, I love you.
Love you too.
Thank you for being here. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. And
Mary Kay's joining us next week.
Beautiful Mary Kay will be with us. Thank you for the commitment of doing that, Mary Kay. And thank you for giving us a quick answer. And I hope it fits in your schedule. If not, you learn the lesson not to do that.
See you next week, everyone.
See you. Bye.